Welcome. You've found your way to a slower place, a quiet place, a place where time moves just a little more gently. Here, the stories of history unfold, like pages turning in a book you've read before, faintly distant and softly lit by the glow of imagination. You don't need to stay fully awake. Just rest, let your body settle, and your mind drift back to a time when America was being built, not by dreams alone, but by steel, sweat, and silence. Tonight, on Pulse of America TV, we travel into the shadow of a man whose name is stitched into the very fabric of American wealth, John D. Rockefeller. But rather than following his rise from ledger clerk to oil tycoon, we'll begin somewhere less lit beneath the empire. This is the story of the men who made Rockefeller rich, who breathed in the fumes, who risked their lives in silence, and who faded into history almost as quickly as the smoke that poured from their chimneys. We'll walk through their days, sit beside them in cold boarding houses, and hear the quiet rhythm of their endless labor. Then we'll step into the boardrooms where strategy replaced swords, uncover hidden deals that shaped entire industries, and finally wander through the quiet, curated halls of the Rockefeller Astarta Monument to control, discipline, and calculated grandeur. Let's begin gently. Imagine yourself waking before dawn in 1891 in a company town, with oil on your boots and no idea what tomorrow will cost you. Imagine. The air is thick with something you can't quite name, a kind of metallic sharpness. Oil, smoke, and something else. You rise from a stiff wooden cot in a narrow boarding house. The mattress is thin, the walls are close. The morning air cuts through the cracks in the windows like tiny knives of coal. There's no electricity, just the last embers in a shared stove and the distant sound of clanging iron. That means your shift is near. You work for Standard Oil now, or perhaps you work for one of its many silent subsidiaries companies with different names but the same heartbeat. Your job, it might be in refining, it might be in barrel making, it might be laying track for oil transport, but wherever your day is long, repetitive, and woven through with risk, the refinery yard is a living machine. Boilers hiss, valves rattle, the scent of burning kerosene is always nearby, clinging to your clothes, to your hair, even to your food. There are no hard hats, no protective eyewear. Your hands, if you're lucky, are covered in worn gloves. If not, they're exposed to raw metal, splinters, steam, and the occasional careless spill of crude. You shovel coal, or hammer barrels, or haul hoses thicker than your arm across slick concrete. The rhythm is relentless. The foreman doesn't shout, he simply nods. The clock doesn't guide your day, your shift does. When it's over, you'll know, because your back will tighten, your skin will burn, and the lamps will start to dim one by one. In these yards, explosions are not rare. Sometimes it's a spark near the tank, sometimes a pressure buildup. Sometimes no one ever finds out why. One moment you're working beside someone, the next there's a sound like thunder, and then silence, heavy as oil. There's no compensation. If you're injured, you don't come back. If you die, well, another man will fill your place. Probably tomorrow. You keep showing up, because wages are wages. And Rockefeller, whether you know his name or not, has made sure that no other refinery in 100 miles pays better. Not because it's generous, but because it's smarter. He doesn't just own the oil. He owns the transport, the storage, the barrels, the railways, even the agents who sell the lamps. You're a drop in a very big machine, and the machine doesn't notice one drop missing. In the evenings, you return to your boarding house. It's crowded, a dozen men to a floor, sometimes more. You eat potatoes, Maybe dried fish or cornbread if someone managed to trade for it. You might play a few rounds of cards, or you might just sit in silence, watching the flame in the shared lantern flicker against the plaster ceiling. There is no radio, no music, no Sunday picnics, only the ache in your hands and the ringing in your ears. And still, you do it all again tomorrow. Because Rockefeller didn't build Standard Oil by inspiring men, he built it by organizing them, by tightening every bolt, by eliminating waste. And in this system, your body is a line item, replaceable, calculated, useful until it isn't. Some called it progress, others called it bondage. But to you, it's just life, and it doesn't wait for dreams. And now, as the smoke of the refinery fades into memory, let us shift our focus to the man behind it all, the quiet architect of the oil empire, methodical, private, relentless. In our next chapter, we'll gently trace how John D. Rockefeller crushed his rivals, not with a sword but with silence. Let us gently shift now from the smoke-choked alleys of labor to the quieter, more calculating world of boardrooms and ledgers. Imagine the soft scratching of a fountain pen against crisp paper, the faint rustle of documents being slid across polished wood. Here, in this subdued realm of commerce and capital, John D. Rockefeller reigned not with loud proclamations, but with steady, deliberate moves that changed the shape of American business forever. He was not a flamboyant man. There were no lavish speeches, no bold public declarations of conquest. Instead, his domination of the oil industry unfolded quietly, one acquisition, one agreement, one subtle advantage at a time. Rockefeller believed in efficiency, in trimming the fat, in cutting waste until a business was lean, exact, and unstoppable, while others in the oil trade fretted about fluctuating prices and unstable markets. He focused on consistency, smoothing chaos into order. Picture a man in a tidy office, the ticking of a wall clock marking each passing minute with calm precision. This was where Rockefeller operated best. In the calm, in the quiet, in the predictability of numbers and patterns. He understood, perhaps better than anyone else, that the path to power was not through brute force but through patience. He began with small refiners, offering them terms that were hard to refuse, not through threats or coercion, but through gentle persuasion, a buyout, a partnership, a merger. Those who accepted found themselves absorbed into the growing machinery of Standard Oil. Those who resisted were quietly out. Imagine being a small oil refiner in Pennsylvania. Your margins are thin. Your machinery is aging. Your rail costs are high. Then comes a letter neatly typed, courteously worded. An offer from Standard Oil? Sell to them, and you might retire comfortably. Refuse, and, well, there were no threats. Just a change in freight rates. A sudden drop in crude prices, a loyal customer lost, lured by standards. Lower rates, nothing illegal, nothing loud, just quiet pressure. It was the railroads that truly sealed the game. Rockefeller negotiated secret rebates, deals with the major rail carriers that gave him steep discounts on every barrel of oil shipped. And not only that, he received drawbacks, meaning that every time his competitor shipped oil, Rockefeller got a cut of their cost. Imagine that. Every time your rival tried to compete, you earned money from their efforts. To the outsider, it might seem unfair, and perhaps it was. But to Rockefeller, it was simply good business. An elegant system built on relationships, contracts, and unwavering discipline. The other refiners began to fall one by one. Some were bought out quietly, their names forgotten. Others collapsed under the weight of unfair freight charges and price wars. Those who fought back found themselves isolated, cut off from supply, from customers, from transportation, and Rockefeller, he remained calm through it all. Never boasting, never gloating, just methodically building, expanding, consolidating. By the late 1870s, Standard Oil controlled the vast majority of refining capacity in the United States. A single company, operating with near-to-total efficiency, under the quiet command of a man who believed in order above all. There were no headlines announcing victory, no champagne toasts, just the rhythmic hum of progress, the slow, steady beat of a growing empire. And yet, not all was invisible. Some began to notice. Whispers of monopolistic practices stirred in the press. Politicians asked questions, but Rockefeller rarely engaged. He preferred the shadows, the margins, let the lawyers handle the noise. He had bigger plans. Still, the grip tightened. By the 1880s, Standard Oil had extended into every corner of the oil business, drilling, refining, transporting, marketing, all flowing upward toward the same quiet office, the same calm man, the same vision. This wasn't just business. It was engineering of systems, of supply chains, of entire markets, and like a finely tuned machine, Rockefeller kept it all moving, smoothly, silently, and now, with his rivals all but eliminated, a new chapter would unfold, a chapter not of battle, but of secrecy, of hidden agreements and backroom deals. We'll drift into that in the next segment, as the machinery of monopoly slides behind velvet curtains, revealing a forgotten cartel that nearly changed American commerce forever. But before we turn that page, take a moment to let your mind settle. Let the calm of the boardroom wash over you, the quiet confidence of a man who never raised his voice, yet changed the world with a signature. Are you ready to uncover the secrets he kept behind those closed doors? Now we descend a little deeper. The flicker of gas lamps, the quiet hush of a private rail car at night, confidential meetings, paper trails that dissolve like mist. This isn't a boardroom anymore. This is backroom capitalism's a secret architecture of an empire. Before Standard Oil became a household name, there was an entity few today remember, the South Improvement Company. It was not meant to be famous. In fact, it was designed to stay hidden. In early 1872, Rockefeller and a small network of oilmen formed this organization not to produce oil, not to refine it, but to control its flow entirely, and more importantly, to do so without alerting the public or the press. Their goal, to gain an exclusive arrangement with the railroads, locking in lower rates for themselves while quietly punishing their competitors. But this wasn't just about discount. The South Improvement Company struck a deal that went further than any industrial agreement before it. Its members would receive not only rebates on their own shipments, but also a cut from their rivals' shipments. Yes, whenever a competitor transported oil on the railroad, a portion of that fee would be secretly routed to Rockefeller's group. Let that sink in. Your competitor moves a barrel of oil, and you get paid. It was diabolically efficient. The railroads, hungry for guaranteed traffic and stable revenue, agreed. They saw in Rockefeller a man who could bring order to the chaos of the oil industry. Dozens of small, squabbling refiners were bad for business. But one centralized buyer, one clean, controlled system, that they liked. And so, in signed contracts and sealed letters, the arrangement was born. The South Improvement Company would rise behind the curtain, quietly reshaping the industry. Now imagine you're a small oil producer in Titusville, Pennsylvania. In the spring of 1872, you go to ship your barrels and suddenly, your freight rate has doubled. Your customers dry up. You hear rumors, whispers of a group in Cleveland controlling everything. You don't know who. You don't know how. All you know is something's changed. In less than 2 months, nearly 20 oil firms sold out to Standard Oil. Some out of fear, some out of exhaustion, all out of necessity. But secrets don't stay hidden forever. A leak emerged. A copy of the confidential agreements found its way into the press. Public outrage exploded. Small oil producers banded together in protest. Angry townsmen held rallies. Newspapers called it a monopoly in the making. Congress took notice, and in March of 1872, the South Improvement Company was dissolved under political pressure. But here's the twist. The damage had already been done. Rockefeller, always thinking steps ahead, had used the chaos to consolidate his grip. The competitors he needed were gone. The structure of dominance he sought was in place. The company died, but its ghost lived on in the newly hyper-efficient Standard Oil. No longer just a refiner, Rockefeller now controlled the rails, the rates, the pricing, and the pace of America's energy. A soft-spoken oil man from Cleveland had outmaneuvered an entire industry with pen strokes and private meetings. He once said, "The way to make money is to buy when blood is running in the streets." And though there were no literal streets of violence here, in the world of early American capitalism, the South Improvement Company was Rockefeller's battlefield. He emerged with all the spoils. This secret arrangement wasn't the only one, but it was the clearest glimpse into how far he would go and how subtly he would do it. And now, as we glide further down the corridors of this empire, we arrive at a different chamber, not the office, not the back room, but the vault, the space where money flowed, unseen and vast. Because even after his rivals fell and the secrets faded, Rockefeller's fortune kept growing. So let's take a quiet walk, now not through politics or sabotage, but through sheer accumulation. As you breathe softly and the world fades to a gentle hum, we explore how Rockefeller didn't he just make money, he became the richest man in modern history. You've walked the refineries. You've sat through the tense board meetings. You've wandered the back rooms of secret deals. Now, let's enter silence. Marble silence. The kind that lives inside a $40 million mansion in 1900. Because this is where the air gets thin, where wealth becomes architecture, and time itself slows down. Let's begin at Pocanteco Hills, an estate unlike anything else in America. Rockefeller called it Kykuit Dutch for lookout. It was his mountaintop temple. 3,400 acres of rolling land. Fountains, sculptures, an underground art gallery, and even a private 9-hole golf course before golf was common in the States. Here, butlers wore white gloves. The ceilings were painted by European masters. Every tree on the estate planted by design. Even the sunrise felt scheduled. In the mornings, he'd rise early, as always, never extravagant in habits, just disciplined. He believed in routine, in long walks, in simplicity surrounded by impossible luxury. Despite his unmatched wealth, he lived by modest principles. He avoided alcohol, prayed daily, ate simply, dressed plainly, but even so, his presence was monumental. The man was worth, at his peak, the modern equivalent of $400 billion. That's not just riches. He could buy nations' economies and still have more left over. He was richer than kings, emperors and so. But what does a life like that feel like? Let's imagine you're seated inside his personal library. Dark walnut walls, a globe the size of a dining table. The air smells faintly of old paper and expensive oil. Your banker writes to ask if you want to purchase an entire railway line. A young scientist from Alabama writes about this strange invention called electricity. You fund it casually, creating General Electric. You receive handwritten notes from the President of the United States, not seeking a donation but your approval. And through it all, you remain calm, soft-spoken, always in control. Because this isn't wealth to flaunt its order you own. He gave away more money than any human in history. $500 million to medical research. $100 million to the University of Chicago. $250 million to eradicate hookworm in the American South. He built libraries, funded education, and launched the Rockefeller Foundation, which still shapes global health today. But it wasn't just philanthropy, it was precision charity, like a businessman giving away chess pieces. Now imagine the end. You're 97, you've outlived your enemies, your rivals, even your own myth. You sit in a quiet chair in Ormond Beach, Florida. The sea is calm, the breeze warm. You hear, perhaps faintly, the sound of an oil tanker sailing far offshore. It's one of yours. You smile not out of pride, but because you always knew. You didn't need to conquer men, you just needed to control the flow beneath them. Oil, rates, supply, demand, time, fade to silence. This was John D. Rockefeller, the richest man who ever lived, the quietest voice in the loudest empire, and the man who reshaped the 20th century by whispering through the 19th. Sleep now, traveler of time. You've seen the empire. You've walked the tracks. You've watched the lights go out in every refinery. And now you rest where fortunes were made and forgotten.